Hey with Live, which I guess technically works. And today we're going to talk about ChatGPT and using it to improve existing content on your site or maybe content that you're going to publish in the near future. We have a couple people here in the chat already, which is great. Please say hello. We have Frank. What's going on, Frank? And we also have Bradbury as well. So thanks a lot for hopping on. Let me know if you can hear me. It's always good to double check. It seems like things are going well over there with the stream, but I always want to double check. And yeah, ChatGPT, I'm still playing with it quite a bit and enjoying it. I have been messing around with Midjourney as well, and that creates images, which is actually like way cooler than I expected. I've been telling some of my friends around the neighborhood about it, and they're kind of amazed as well. So it's cool once you kind of figure out how to use these tools in a, ethical way, right? There's some ways you could do this that probably don't fit normal ethics or, what you may want to adhere to. But I'm using ChatGPT all the time. It's great to help me primarily these days with research. And today, what we're going to look at as far as improving content, it helps us a ton with identifying, well, to be redundant, areas to improve. But it could be very specific. So maybe we have content that we have written and it's been published for a little while, and we're thinking, hey, I'm not sure if the intro is good. Maybe I can make the intro a little bit tighter. Maybe I can remove content that doesn't need to be there. And that's really helpful because if you're able to say something in fewer words, usually it's more impactful. It's more interesting, usually, because you're getting to the point faster and it's not filled with fluff and transitional phrases that don't need to be there. You're literally giving the reader, the visitor to your website, the information that they want to get to as quickly as possible. One thing that we do often, unfortunately for live things like this, whether it's YouTube or podcasts or regular podcasts that are not actually live, or even YouTube videos that aren't live that we just record, maybe without a script, it's very easy to repeat ourselves. We think we're trying to make a point and really emphasize a point. Sometimes you could repeat the same sentence twice. That could be okay. But the real sin is when you make a point and then you restate it through your video like 8 times. I've done this because I used to not use a script, and you're trying to summarize, you ramble on a little bit, and then you repeat yourself. Now, for live things like this, a fine audience, you're much more tolerant of repeating yourself because, I'm just speaking off the cuff. I have no notes. I had a couple, actually, to be honest, I had no bullet points. We just have a title today. We're rolling with it. Hopefully, it'll be great. We're going to learn some stuff. Perhaps we're going to look at someone's content specifically and help you improve it. But what we can do is remove those redundancies. It's really easy to do when you're speaking. When you write it, it's easier to edit that out. But one of the biggest things that I see when I audit someone's site is a fluffy intro. A lot of times there's repetition. And this is content that might be written, by a smart individual like yourself or me. Or it could be written by a well-qualified writer, but they're not spending as much time editing. And if you spend much time writing or trying to learn about writing, you hear that the editing process is really what writing is about. So with ChatGPT, you'll be able to remove the redundancy really easily. There's other things we could do, like find missing pieces, right? Missing things that you should add into your content. And you can get a lot of help or a little help. You don't have to have ChatGPT write the content for you. You could have ChatGPT just point out the gaps, point out the things you need to work on, and then you can go work on it yourself. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to look at. So thanks a lot, everybody, for hopping on. We got Joe on as well. Our friend Daniel. People are telling me that you could hear me, which is awesome. And we have Mosin, who says, please guide on how to write commercial article by using ChatGPT. Cool, we could do that. And Frank says, Open Assistant is going to hurt ChatGPT when it releases. And our friend David is on, who is one of our kind moderators keeping order in the chat, which, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues in the chat in a long time. And I'm actually, Frank, so I'm not familiar. What's the Open Assistant? Tell me what this is. Feel free to just like copy and paste a blurb from somewhere. I'm on some newsletters, so I am aware about some new stuff in the AI world, but I'm not like cutting edge. I don't read the news so much, and I don't look things up. So things have to go through a few filters before I'm even aware. Before we get to the meat of what's going on, I'll tell you right now, we're going to have an ad a little bit later. It allows my voice to rest just a little bit. Our sponsor for today is Odys Global, the source for premium age domains. And these are domains that have really strong branding and some backlinks. So I'm going to roll an ad from them that I pre-recorded it. Again, it helps me take a little break in the middle of this. I recorded a podcast earlier for my other show, Mile High Fi. And, I talk a lot. My voice isn't used to it. Either I talk all day long or not at all. So the days that I do talk, I do need to rest, my voice a little bit. The other thing, we are talking ChatGPT. If you don't have the cheat sheet, you should check it out. So that is a free resource, and it should be cheat sheets. It's actually 6 pages long, 1 page of sort of an intro, which there's no BS in there. I just kind of tell you what's going to be in it. And then there's 5 pages of sort of pure usable prompts, some of which you'll be able to use directly from kind of what we're talking about today, or for what we're talking about today to improve your content. So be sure to check it out. Again, it's free. You just have to follow the link and you'll be able to put in your name, or maybe even just your email address. And if you want to, you can put in your name later. Essentially, you get access to a repository of information about AI stuff. Some of those are like longer videos or prompts that are quite long, but generally you'll be able to just get this stuff for free. So I'm not going to charge for it or anything like that. You can just follow the link, which I'll actually share with you in just a second. It's in the description there, but I want to show you the cheat sheet. I just have to find it here and show you. So yeah, the prompt engineering cheat sheet. And I didn't make it a PDF because I want to be able to update this. So you can just hop over here and all the blue stuff is exactly, what you can use. Again, very little filler. It assumes some level of competence with using ChatGPT, but generally highly effective. And like I said, you could follow the link in the description to get over to it. So before we get to the meat and stuff, I'm going to hop over, make sure I understand stuff in the chat here. So we have Frank says open source ChatGPT. Okay, so Frank also says Open Assistant is an open source AI assistant that uses and trains advanced language models to understand and respond to humans. So gotcha. So it's an open source version of ChatGPT, which is, we knew, I assumed that many of us knew that was going to come at some point. And I wonder, if there's always, pros and cons. So I suspect maybe there's going to be a little bit more friction. A lot of times with an open source product, there's more friction to use it. Maybe there's more setup, or some things are just not optimized. So we'll see. I wonder how it'll go. I wonder if, ChatGPT will sort of have like a higher threshold of like quality in some capacity. Maybe it won't have quite as much information. Who knows? Or people will have specific chatbots that are trained on specific things, and it'll be a specific ChatGPT that's trained on like maybe very up to date content and information, or other things that maybe it's a proprietary source of data, for example. And last little bit here. So Bradbury says, I'm just in the process of knocking out some articles with the help of ChatGPT for a site I've had for years. I used to solely be reliant on pages and didn't do much, so adding some new content now. Cool. And Fred says, there's a lot of AI apps now. Would like to convert a portrait to an AI image. I have not found that yet. Just sharing. Gotcha. Yeah. So I think there's a few apps that do that. I think you can do this stuff for free. I've watched a couple of videos where you have to pull some data and run some things, and it's free, but you have to go through a process. And then I know there was a company, I feel like it may have been like 6 months ago, that was taking a portrait and changing it to an AI image. And I think it cost like $10. They were using all free resources, but they were charging $10 because they made it like upload a picture, get something out. Now, saw this just the other day, worth pointing out before we get into the details. And by the way, if anybody wants to share a specific article that they want to see how we could improve it, we can do it here. You can put it in the chat and I may be able to get to it. The thing is, if you do it, everyone will see your site. So if you don't care about that, which I would caution people, if you share your site, other people potentially can go and copy what you're doing, copy your keywords. So there's some risk with that. But if you don't care, then you can mention what your site is and I can go have a look at it. It may not accept URLs in the chat. Sometimes it blocks those. So you could put like a dot or some symbol to indicate what your URL is. I should be able to see it on my other screen here where I have the chat going. If not, I'll find an article and we can go from there. We'll probably look at one of my own articles. All right. The thing I want to point out is February 8th. So this has been a few months and sometimes we forget about this. So Google's search guidance about AI generated content back from a couple of months ago. So at Google, we've long believed in the power of AI to transform the ability to deliver helpful information. In this post, we'll share more about how AI generated content fits into our long-standing approach to show helpful content or to show helpful content to people on search. I'm laughing because I feel like we should try to clean up these sentences. They're just a little wordy. I mean, I understand what they're saying, but kind of not great. School Me says, how do I get that sheet? I'm so glad that you asked. Follow the link in the description. It's a free cheat sheet. There's a little intro in the beginning. You can see just a few sentences long. And then there's just sort of like pure usable prompts. And it's free. So check it out. Link in the description. All right. So essentially, what we have here is Google telling us that they're okay with high quality content, no matter where it comes from. So one kind of fun thing that we can do, and this could be part of your like exercise of improving content. So we have a few paragraphs here. I'm not sure exactly how many words this is, but it looks like it could be short enough where we can just kind of play around. And I'm going to hop over here to ChatGPT, and I do use the plus version. I'm going to create a new chat, and we're going to use version 3.5 because it's a little faster. And if you're unfamiliar, 3.5 is the default, and it has 3 out of 5 for reasoning, 5 out of 5 for speed, 2 out of 5 for conciseness. The GPT-4 version is 5 out of 5 for reasoning, 2 out of 5 for speed, and conciseness is 4 out of 5. The downside, if you use 4, especially for a live stream like this, we have 25 messages for every 3 hours. So we may not hit the 25 messages, the cap here, but for the sake of speed, we're going to stick with 3.5. Plus, if you don't use the plus version and pay $20 per month, you won't have 4 available to you. So for the speed alone, this is going to be much, much faster and easier to watch me do this because it'll just type it faster. And I don't think we're going to hit any major issues here. So we're going to start with one from scratch. However, what we can do, because we're looking at content, and I'm going to go down to this prompt generator. So this prompt generator is one that I've trained already. And what you can do, by the way, you can get this full prompt generator prompt here. It's essentially this, and I've spiced it up as I've gone on, but you can create a prompt with the help of ChatGPT. So I just put in title and then say what I want. So I want a writing coach to help improve content for a blog. And that's all you have to do. And then it'll give a prompt that says, I want you to act as a writing coach, and it'll give other details. It talks about some things that a writing coach should have. And we're just going to use this prompt. This is a really awesome way to get sort of full featured prompts. I'm not even going to read it because I've done this a handful of times and it's usually pretty damn good. If you were going to create a prompt that you're going to use all the time, I would probably go in and, read each sentence, spice up each sentence as necessary to make it the most effective for you. And then I'm just going to put it in. So we've trained it on being a writing coach. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I want you to be able to see the prompts that I'm putting in there. So it's sort of repeating and telling us, hey, I'm going to be a really good writing coach for you. I'm going to do my best, blah, blah, blah. So let's hop over, and one cool thing. So we're going to take this and get a summary. All right. So I will copy and paste the title. And what we're going to do, it's not specifically trained to do this, but I'm going to tell ChatGPT what I want, and then I'm going to provide the information, which will be the title of the post, and then I'll put in the content of the post as well. And what I want is kind of a bullet point summary of what is in this post. So I'll just say, provide a bullet point list to summarize and I'll go to the next line and I'll say the title and go to the next line again and just get these few paragraphs here. Okay. And I'll say content is this. So it should provide a bullet point list. And the reason why I did that, right? So we're improving content. So it could be nice if we have a full blog post to just look and determine what it is about, just generally. So now we've summarized this, few hundred words into, looks to be 6 bullet points. So great. We have this information here. And one of the best ways, as I mentioned before, is to just clean things up. So we have the full blog post, and Google's, a couple engineers at Google posted this, right? So it's the search quality team, Danny Sullivan and Chris Nelson. So they posted this, and conceivably, they're great communicators because of the position that they're in, but there's often a way to say things in a better more concise way. So I'm gonna go specifically look at the sort of intro. So this is just a couple sentences, and if you remember when I read this over here, it seems a little bit wordy to me, just reading it out loud. So I'm gonna ask, how can we improve the intro? And that is the whole thing. We don't want everything there. We just want the first sentence or so. So we'll just put that in. We'll put it in quotes. And it's going to tell us a few ways. So it says, here's how we can make it more engaging and attention grabbing. So it started as at Google, we've long believed in the power of AI to transform the ability to deliver helpful information. And it's just honestly, it's a weird sentence. In this post, we'll share more about how AI generated content fits into our long-standing approach to show helpful content to people on search. So the revision is, as technology continues to evolve, so does our ability to deliver helpful information. At Google, we're constantly exploring new ways to harness the power of AI to make search results more informative and accessible for everyone. In this post, we'll take a closer look at how AI-generated content is changing the game for search engines and how it fits into our long-standing commitment to delivering the best possible results for our users. That is a lot more clear to me. And I think they should have divided it up like they did here into, I think we call that a compound sentence. I'm not very good at writing or English, but I think, that's two sentences. We could actually break those up. And that might even be a better way to do it too. So actually, one great thing to do is just follow up with ChatGPT and say, what else can we do to make it even more clear? And instead of saying it, I'm going to say the intro. So we should end up with a revision here, and they give us, some ideas. So focusing on the main topic, AI generated content is transforming the way we deliver information. And at Google, we're always looking for ways to improve the search results. In this post, we'll explore how AI generated content fits into our approach to deliver helpful content to people on search. We'll also discuss our focus on high quality, reliable information and provide guidance for creators looking to improve their content. So I think both of those are a step up from the original. And again, you could do the exact same thing. I do like to look at sections at a time. So, we really did just focus on like a couple sentences here, and that's what you can do. I'm going to pop back full screen here. So for the people that are just joining in, we're looking at actually one of Google's blog posts, because I thought it would be fun to just dive into some of Google's content. And I had an idea as we were doing this to see what Bard, which is Google's chat, would do as well. So we can kind of get them to go head to head. But from a writing standpoint, this is the kind of stuff you can do. And for the people that come from more of a pure writing background, you're probably thinking, yeah, this is what you would have to do if you have your first draft or your 10th draft and you're trying to improve and revise. And maybe you have like a book manuscript and you have to cut it down by like 40%, which is a true thing that you may have to do. If you're writing a book, you usually put everything in there, right? And then you have to whittle it down because you're trying to hit a page count. I have some friends that they wrote books, so that's a thing. You end up with like a 500-page manuscript and you have to squeeze it into 200 pages. So they have to throw out a lot of stuff. So this is the kind of stuff that you maybe would have to struggle through on your own, which I think is actually pretty valuable. It's a good skill to go through. I haven't done anything to that extent, but basically this is what you might want to do. And you can iterate on this. I mean, we could say, can you give me 5 more versions of the intro? So one other thing, I'll tell it, hey, I like this last version, but make the sentences shorter. So make the sentences shorter. So we should end up with generally the main idea, and I mentioned the compound sentence before, it should probably, get rid of that. So we end up, they actually made the whole thing shorter, not necessarily the sentences, but the thing is, like, we don't have to, sorry, forgot to share my screen there. We don't have to like ask for help for every little thing. Like, we could take this and say, this is good. We'll just make it into a few separate sentences here. So that is a way you could do it. Now, next, we have this whole other section here, and we do have the summary from the bullet points. So, I mean, really, we can take this and we're going to look at it section by section again. So what we'll do in this case is, ask for areas to improve, but we'll also ask for things that are missing and what we can add to it. So the intro, fairly, straightforward. It's like, here's what we're going to tell you. So this is what we're going to look at more specifically. And I know we did have a question earlier about writing a review, and I could show you a little bit of that. But today we're focusing really on improving content. And I have a couple videos that I've done where I show you how to write a review, but basically it's straightforward. And I'm going to hold that in a little bit. We'll look at it a little more closely. Okay, so Bradbury is asking if I use any resources for prompts, any online databases or plugins. So I don't use any plugins for prompts currently. It looks like there's some good ones out there, and I actually ran across, I use Keywords Everywhere, and I actually saw that they added prompt templates right here. And there are, I don't know how many there are, but there's a lot of them. And it just, like, I use Keywords Everywhere. It just popped up, and there's a ton of good stuff. And there's probably things here that you can use. So SEO, on-page optimization, and then they have templates that you could use. So this one actually looks pretty good, though I have not personally used it. So we have frameworks for marketing, and there's different sales frameworks, which if you have to be you have to study copywriting, and it'll tell you what these are. The other is miscellaneous. So marketing, buyer persona, long form sales letter. Where's copywriting? So there's probably a template here for blog post. Yep, blog post. We have paragraph of text. What about content writing? So we have a content rewriter, content brief, outline generator, monthly content calendar. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in here, and I think there's probably tons of them. I like Keywords Everywhere. Even though I haven't used this tool, they do a lot of cool stuff, and I already had it installed anyway. And as far as databases, I haven't gone to any specific databases, though I've seen some around. It looks like there's an open source database out there of a lot of cool prompts, and I often use those as like a starting point. And for example, the like prompt generator that I showed you earlier, I got that from a database, or I saw it listed somewhere. It wasn't actually a database, but I saw it listed somewhere, a couple references where I've seen it. And then after I start using something, I often customize it. So that is like the engineer part of prompt engineering and my engineering and software background, where I was like, oh, I see what it's doing. Now I want to customize it, and I want to train it even harder for the stuff that I'm trying to do. So that is what I've seen really effective. So you get a starting point, and this is, if people do software, you probably do this a lot. Like, you don't want to recreate the wheel. You can go find a repository of code snippets, and then you customize it into whatever you're trying to do, debugging along the way. And then you end up with something that, you found the core piece of functionality elsewhere, you made it into your own, and you're running with it. So that's what I end up doing most of the time. Okay. So what we're going to do here is ask ChatGPT for help improving a section of content. And then I will give the subheading, which I'm just trying to give a little bit more information, and that's why I'm doing that. And then I'll put the full section of content. So what I'll do, paste it in here, and I think the first line is the subheading. So I'll just paste the subheading in here, and then we have the full section of content. And what I'm going to do, I'll ask specifically, I'll say 10 ways to improve the content. And I'll say, please you don't have to say please, but I'm just polite. It came out. Okay. So now we're going to end up with the 10 ways to improve it. And we could probably ask for 10 more after this. So number 1, it says define EEAT and provide more information how it relates to high quality content. So let's go back here. And do they even mention EEAT or what it is? So I mentioned that I'm not a great writer, generally. I've tried to improve over the years, but one thing that I did have a lot of experience writing is technical documents, because I do have that engineering background. And when you use an abbreviation like EEAT, the first time that you use it, you're supposed to write out the full phrase, and then you put the abbreviation in parentheses. At least that's the way it was 25 years ago when I was learning how to write this stuff. So the thing is, even like these guys live in their own bubble, and they're thinking anyone that ends up on this fucking blog probably knows what EEAT is, or they're smart enough to go Google it, right? But they should have put that in. So that is one thing. They should include examples of content that demonstrates EEAT qualities. Now, for this, right, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to put in specific examples, because the goal of this article is to talk about how AI content is okay. Like, that is what this article is about. So I would say it would be good to put, a quick, maybe a link to an example, but you can go like deep into the weeds if you put too much information that goes on a tangent here. So I would say I wouldn't necessarily put that in, but I would put some references like, here's what EAT is. Here are some examples that you can go look at if you want to get more information. And this is a great one. Provide data or statistics to support the claim that focusing on quality content has been effective for Google. I don't think they have the data, but that would be awesome. I love that it mentioned it. And I can't wait to go ask Bard how it would improve it. Next, explain the drawbacks of mass-produced content and why it's important to prioritize quality. So I think that is valid, or at least a sentence or two. Number 5, use specific language and avoid vague statements like, quote, useful guide to make the content more impactful. Great. Provide more information on how the ranking systems work to surface reliable information and helpful content. Yeah, that'd be nice. Next is clarify what is meant by, quote, helpful content system and how it differs from the ranking system. Interesting. Next, we have include quotes or testimonials from experts or users who have benefited from the focus on quality content. Use visuals or graphs to illustrate the point. And finally, offer tips or advice to content creators looking to improve EEAT qualities and create high quality content. So I would say not all of these are valid. You wouldn't want to incorporate all of this stuff, but I would say at least, half of them could make it more clear and more helpful. And I'll hop over to the chat in a second. I see we have, we'll just call him Vass. Vass, what's going on? And we'll answer your question in a second. Plus, we have a couple other questions that we'll get to also. And so before I roll the ad and let my voice take a little break here, we have this section. So we have the 10 ways. And if you are, we'll say lazy. If you're lazy, you can do this. So please incorporate the 10 improvements to the section. And just to be clear, it's always good to be very clear. I will make sure that we are like putting the subheading in there. So that'll be to this section, boom. And it'll rewrite it. And the thing is, we don't necessarily have the stats. We talked about graphs and charts and stuff. So that's not going to work here because it's text-based, right? So we have potentially incorrect information, but you could verify it, right? If it's something that you wrote or someone that, or some content that you're familiar with, you'll be able to sniff out the BS and take it out. So what we have is the section rewritten with the 10 items, or at least a lot of them. So I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but you can see it's a little bit longer than what we pasted in there. They actually tell us some bullet points that would help improve the content and provide EEAT. And then there's 10 items listed here to help improve and provide high quality content. So you end up with something a little bit more thorough than what the jokers over at Google told us originally. So that's cool. And when we get back, I'm going to hop over to Bard and we'll see what Bard tells us. So I wasn't going to do that, but it'll be interesting to have Bard critique some of the home team's actual content. And I'll answer the couple questions too. So here's a quick word from our sponsor for the day. We're taking a look at this awesome domain. It's called Evolve the Bike. And this is a snapshot from way back when. This is all the way back from 2013. And this is an e-bike. And this domain has actually been around since 2011. 12 years old. The domain rating is something we'll take a look at in a second. And this is brought to you by Odys Global, the source for premium age domains that mean business. And this particular domain is called Evolve the Bike. Now, if you're not interested in this specific domain, that's okay. They have this great filtering mechanism over here. So you can look for your specific language, the industry. They even have budget domains listed. If you hop over here, you'll see that you do get a logo included, and there's some more detail if you do want to check it out. But again, if you're not interested in this specific one, there are thousands of others that you could check out. We will have a quick look at the domain as it stands now. Now, the thing is, there are some domains that actually have some content. I believe this is one of them, but if you want to learn a little bit more, you can head over to Odys and send a message. They actually have a make an offer system, so you can negotiate a little bit. So if it doesn't fit your budget as it's listed, you can negotiate to see how it goes. So lots of content already on here. You can see the kind of reviews that are targeted. And the cool part is domain already has plenty of backlinks. So if we take a look here on Ahrefs, we can see the domain rating is 10. There are 189 referring domains and 133 of those are do follow. There's actually some organic traffic currently right now. If we hop over to this view, you can see there were some better days back in 2017 or so where they were getting more traffic, and it's had some ups and downs over time. You can see since I would say the middle or early time frame of 2020, there's been a little bit more traffic. So the site seems to be resurrected and actually coming out of looks like March of 2023, just a few weeks ago, there's kind of a jump in the number of keywords that the site is ranking for. So that's a great sign. And if we dive in a little bit deeper, we'll see these do follow referring domains. We have newatlas.com, chicagobooth.edu. We have Bike Radar, we have Bike Rumor, we have a handful of other bike related sites and several other big websites. So we can take a look at some of the older days. So again, this is back in 2013 and it actually doesn't look too bad. The cool part is these days, e-bikes are extremely popular. In fact, I just went to a financial conference and there was a whole talk about e-bikes because you can actually save some money if you now this is not practical for most people, but this is what the person was contending, that you could trade in your car and then use an e-bike. Now, depending on where you live, the weather may not be favorable. So if you live where it snows a lot in the winter, that's not a great situation. Maybe not safe, and it'll make your hands cold and everything. But the point is, you might be able to save on gas and transfer yourself and transport your groceries or whatever and get around on a bike that is electric versus driving around in a car. So again, not possible for some people, but it can work out. So anyway, this is a great industry to get into. This is kind of a growing industry. And if you were to go look at Google Trends, you would see that e-bikes are a lot more popular now. The prices have come down. They're a lot more practical. They're a lot more available. And many cities actually have like the, rent as you go kind of bikes. So you could actually rent a bike with a phone app and then, get around that way. And a lot of people do. So you could be an affiliate for bike products. You could be an affiliate for e-bikes specifically, which are fairly expensive. This would be a great high ticket item to have reviews on. You could have informative articles that provide some information about the legalities of using e-bikes in various cities and states and different municipalities, cover regulations and rules and stuff like that. And in that area, you would be able to come up with tons and tons of great informational content. You could even partner with tour operators in cities. Usually major cities will have some kind of e-bike tour, especially where, a walking tour is not going to quite get you around fast enough. And I'm thinking places like Washington, D.C., that would be a great place to go on an e-bike tour. So this is a great one to check out. Thanks a lot to Odys Global. If you join using my affiliate link, you can get $100 in your account. And if you make a purchase, I might get a commission. So thanks a lot to Odys.Global. All right. So that was a quick word from the sponsor. Be sure to check out the link, head over there, open an account, check it out. Helps me out a little bit. If you're not in the market or you've already signed up, that's cool. Shoot them an email. There's a way to, give them a message over there, but let them know that you appreciate the support for the show. It helps me out a lot. It just lets them know. I don't ask for that too often, but if you've been hanging out here, if I answered your question, shoot them a message over there. Okay. So we have a couple other questions I want to hit before we head over to Bard, which should be kind of fun. I think that'll be an interesting thing. Okay, so number one, Vass says, is it possible not to detect ChatGPT content? Do you recommend any other AI writer that might be undetectable? I'm asking in terms of uni plagiarism checks. So if anyone has any recommendations, you can type it in the chat here. I have not checked that. it doesn't fit anything that I'm doing. I'm not doing any kind of university plagiarism. I don't give a shit, right? Like, it's not in my area. Like, I haven't looked into it. However, if I had to give you a couple tips, number one, I think it works really well, even ChatGPT, if you give it as much of your own information as possible and, write in your own words, maybe like write a shitty draft and then ask for improvements. And you will probably end up with a lot higher likelihood of not being detected by like plagiarism checks because it's mostly in your own words. It's just rephrased, often in a better way. You can also ask ChatGPT to put your content in the style of someone else, which we'll actually play around with in a second. By putting it into a specific person's style, you may end up in a situation where it's not as plagiarized because it's like rephrasing the main ideas of the content into something else. You can pick someone that has an academic writing style, so it fits in really well. But overall, I would say if you can provide as much of your own content, that's going to help out a lot. If you could provide maybe some of your own writing and say, write in this tone, or maybe a combo, like write in your tone plus Malcolm Gladwell or something like that, so that you end up with something that is a little bit different, but it does sort of adhere to your own writing style. And it's not just the default stuff out of ChatGPT. As far as other AI writers, I don't know. I've played around a little bit with some other tools, but I have not checked for plagiarism or anything like that you're describing here. A nomad overseas says that Jasper tends to score a lot better in AI detectors than ChatGPT. So I haven't, looked at that, but that could be totally possible. So the other question that we got earlier that I did not answer yet, and that is from Mosin. So Mosin said how to write an article by using ChatGPT. So I'm pretty sure, give me 1 second. I'm pretty sure I have a niche site expert. So here I have a niche site expert here. And this is on GPT-4, by the way. So I'll just say, you don't have to ask, can't. So just say, provide a template for a product review for my blog. So we're going to end up with a template for a product review. And then we can use the template, right? So the question is, how can you write a commercial article using ChatGPT? So one good starting point is get the template here so you know what you need to provide. In this case, is asking for a product name. The best scenario to do this, which, by the way, I don't recommend that you do this, but that is not the question. It's not like the morality police over here. You could do this if you want, but I'm telling you, you probably shouldn't do this. All right. So you have a list of the items that you need. So in the best case scenario, you get this template and then you go and do your research. And maybe this is all on the manufacturer's website. You have the product name, you have the intro, you'll have the main features and functions and pros. You probably won't see many cons listed, so you might have to go to real product reviews, maybe on Amazon. You have the price, value for money, alternatives. So you have to do some research here. But let's say, Mosin, that you don't want to do that either. You're like, I don't even want to do the research. I just want to get a blog post on the other side of this. So in that case, you may not end up with a great end result, but let's just give a quick example. And this is GPT-4, so I could tell it was typing a little bit slower there. So I'll just say, we're going to make this easy. All right. We're going to get a review for an iPhone 12. So I'll just say, provide a review. Anyone know why I picked iPhone 12? We'll say Pro. We'll say using the template above. We'll call it the product review template. And because I don't want to sit here forever waiting for this thing, we'll say make it 400 words. So it's going to leave out some stuff. It may not hit all the sections or less. Like I said, I don't want to sit here forever. So iPhone 12, anyone know why I picked iPhone 12? And then we'll see what we come up with. So 400 words or less, provide a review, and we'll let this type out as I look at the chat and see what else we have here. And Bradbury and Nomad Overseas got it. We have, basically it's an older model. So the iPhone 12 is old enough where I know it was going to be in the database, like the 13 probably was, but I just wanted to make sure. And, it just depends on what the information in the training data is. And I know that the iPhone 12 is old enough. So hopefully that person was still on since we went through this exercise, but this is how you can get a product review. You just, I kind of made this a little more complicated because I asked for the template, which is what I actually want people to pull away from this, is like, you can ask for a template, then you know what to do research on, then you could write it yourself. Then you can go through the process that we did earlier and ask how to improve sections and make it more informative or whatever, make it more clear. So we'll pop back here in a second. We're going to hop over to Bard. So while this is typing in the other tab here, we'll hop over to Bard. And how many people have used Bard, by the way? Just curious about that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to see if I could use the same prompt and what it does if I tell Bard to act as an AI writing coach. I have not tested this, so I'm going to see if it'll do that. So I put in the same prompt, AI writing coach to improve content for a blog, and it said I would help the blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's cool. Looks like it kind of trained it. And the next thing, and by the way, Bard does do multiple drafts here. So you could like pick the one that you want. And usually the first one's pretty solid. I mean, I haven't played with it a ton. We'll use 3 here just for fun. So what I'm going to do, so it's still typing over here, which is cool. And I'm not sure. I'm going to see if I can switch. Oh, it finished. So we end up with this blog post here, which is short because I told it to be short. And it gives a whole review for the iPhone 12, pros, cons, value for money. I don't know if any of this is accurate, but it's probably fine. And they actually filled out the whole thing. So this is a great starting point, and this is how you could write a product review. That's all you would have to do. So what we're going to do is pop back over to the writing coach and see, and we're going to ask the same questions that we asked ChatGPT. We'll ask that of Bard. So I'm not sure how much content it will accept, but I'm going to put in the same thing. So I'm going to ask for a summary of the blog post from Google. So we'll see what we come up with here. And it's the whole blog post. So it's actually very fast. So here's a bullet point list to summarize the post. We end up with 5 points, fairly concise, but we do have 3 other options. And I got to say the speed was pretty ridiculous. I mean, it provided the update really fast, and it actually gave us a link over here to go to the source of the information, which is cool. We'll stick with the version 1 here. And we'll just keep on going, asking the same things. So how can we improve the intro, which I'll paste right here. And then we should see a couple options as well. So start with a strong hook, be clear and concise, focus with the benefits, and end with a call to action. And here's an example of the improved intro. So we have 3 versions of that. They're all fairly similar. What we can do, we'll take a look. So at this first one, AI has the potential to transform the way we deliver helpful content information. In this post, we'll share more about how AI generated content fits into our long-standing approach to show helpful content to people on search. We'll also provide some tips for creators who are considering using AI to generate content. Cool. So that actually sounds a little bit better. So not bad. And again, like I said, I always like to ask a follow-up. So what can we do to make it even more whatever? So we'll see how this reacts. And the biggest thing that I see is like a huge speed difference. So this is Bard is ultra fast, and it's giving us 3 versions. So it's doing 3x the work, and it's very fast. So it says, here are some tips to make it more clear and concise. So remove unnecessary words, use simpler language, focus on the main points, active voice, strong verbs. So these are kind of generic but useful. And they gave us an example that is better. So it's shorter and it's a little punchier, I think. So that's a good way to do it. And as we scroll down, we're going to look at improving, give 10 ways to improve the content. And we have the first section here. So let's see how we end up doing. All right, cool. So good discussion over here. Some people are asking about plagiarism checks and stuff like that. So Frank mentions, ask it to make a table for your content, which looks pretty for your article. Cool, that's a good idea. And I was showing someone that I was coaching just the other day, just from a formatting standpoint, really effective way to make it you instantly get, better formatting. So we have 10 items here, which is great. Just skimming them, it looks like most are pretty valid and could help out. So let's see. So I'll say put the list in a table. And I'll see ChatGPT. For ChatGPT, I'll say put the list of the 10 improvements in a table. So see if so it remembered some of the things from before. So Bard puts it in a table here, so ways to improve the content, and then gives a little description. So I know we wouldn't necessarily put this because this is the list of what to do, but this could be nice, right? So let's say we're working with a VA. We could copy and paste this, send it over to them via email, and then have it a little more clear. And ChatGPT put it all in a list. this was a bad example for a table, but it's just what I had handy here, by the way. So you can format things, or at least try to format things in a better way. So this is, I think, a good example. So I wasn't intending on improving, the article here from Google, but it was kind of wordy just reading it out to you all, and I could tell that it could use some help. And in fact, Bard has some suggestions as well. So I think it's fairly effective, and Bard seemed to react pretty well with the same prompt that I used over here. And a nomad overseas hasn't tried Bard yet. Frank didn't like it. I did not. I haven't spent a huge amount of time using it. Again, the speed seems pretty good, but I maybe should play around with it a little bit more. Vass says you didn't like Bard as much, and the thing is that they rushed it out, and it hasn't been trained on as much stuff, or at least as much interaction with real users. So I think that makes a pretty big difference. Flora says I often use 2 tabs and give back the first AI output to the second AI to improve my content further. Cool. That's a good idea. And Daniel says you could ask for the table in HTML code and include table schema. So great tip on that as well. So I'll just say it here. So provide the table with HTML. So that'll take a second, but then, okay, so cool. We have the table with the list here, which is fine. So you could paste it directly into your content. This potentially could work sometimes depending on what you're pasting it into. So if you do want to check out the prompt engineering cheat sheet, you can get it free. You just have to follow the link in the description. You should also check out some of my other videos. A few of them are linked in the description, like the most powerful prompts, which I probably talk about creating your own prompts. But there's some other stuff where like maybe you use or you train one of the chatbots, right? And you go through and you're like, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. And then you can ask for a prompt that incorporates how you have trained it. So you may, like in this example, I trained a specific task and I had to tweak it. I had to give a few prompts. And then I was like, okay, give me a prompt that I can use again. And then you end up with this, which then you could go and customize it and make it a few paragraphs long if you want to. So again, cheat sheet is free. You just head over and check out the landing page, put in your email. There's a lot more stuff in there if you want to check it out. I do these live streams once a week on Tuesdays at this time, noon Mountain Time. Oh, see, Jason is on and late, just in time for me to head off. It's nice and warm outside, so I think I'm going to go outside and or work out. So I'm going to take a little break, take the afternoon off. So everybody have a good one out there, and we'll catch you on the next one.